We're not prepared to make the decision. No, as the due diligence has not been done, we've not sought experienced opinion. We don't even know what capacity air conditioning needs for that building. The discussion that I've heard tonight is just people going around chatting, has nothing to do with what ought to be going on with a multi-million-dollar corporation. This is shame. I know it's typical of how this board conducts business, but I move the table until we can get this done right.
I'm gonna do something like this. I think it's a shame how you get up and make your comments, but the bottom line, we got a motion to approve.
Motion to table. The motion to table has to be dealt with. So, have you voted?
At this time, we have a motion to table. Do I have a second? Just vote your motion to table.
All in favor of the motion to table?
All those in favor of motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise? Aye. Opposed?
I need to see hands up because I don't know. To oppose?
To oppose.
To oppose.
I'm going to abstain.
So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And we have a motion that on the floor to approve $5,084. And do I hear a second? I think who is second?
You got Kennedy making the motion, Rector making the second.
All those in favor say aye.
Discussion? We have no discussion on this. Can I inquire as to where these bids were advertised?
We did it on emergency, and we did it for emergency, so we didn't advertise, we contacted.
So much time has elapsed, I don't think it qualifies as an emergency. State law requires we advertise in the local paper 4 weeks, once a week. And we can do that. Also, we did not get expert opinion. We have our permits, a very qualified facility manager who would have loved to answer our questions on that. Thank you.
Doctor, is it
Doctor, you're working without any air out there in that public place out there.
Is it healthy for your patients in the clinic to be there sitting in that heated environment, or for your employees?
It's not very good patronage of the patients, and if they're sickly, of course not.
So it would be an unhealthy situation. Would you?
I would like to see it dealt with, yes, sir.
Would you like to have it dealt with benefit of expert opinion or without?
I'm gonna just say it again. The original unit was put in by Mr. Woodford. That's why he was contacted to go out there and take a look at it. So at some point in time, he must have had it done correctly.
There's no reason why.
And it's been up how long? About 20
I'm
something?
not sure.
You didn't have a list of specifications. We've got bids for everything here.
We have a motion. We have had discussion. At this time, I would like to entertain a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise.
I'm going to abstain since it's.
Okay. At this time, the Quality Assurance Pension and Personnel Committee.
No report.
Insurance Committee.
No report.
Strategic Planning Team, Chairperson.
We have attempted to enter into negotiations with Christus concerning the renewal of their existing lease, which will expire April of 2020. We began our negotiations with them to enter into negotiations for the renewal of their lease February the 7th of 2017, which was our first meeting. We have met many times since then, all the way up until the end of August. our negotiations with Christus concerning their option to renew their existing lease for an additional 5-year period, which option will have to be exercised on or before October the 31st of 2019, has been unsuccessful. And we're at a point now where we have to begin to consider third parties in negotiating with. The option to renew by Christus must be exercised under the existing terms of the original lease, and that option to renew for an additional 5-year period by Christus must be exercised by Christus on or before October 31st. Based upon the negotiations with the Strategic Planning Committee and Christus, I make a motion that the Planning Committee team in the hospital district approve and request in my motion that we request that Christus be asked to decline and immediately release their option to renew the lease contained in the lease agreements with the hospital district and the Jasper Memorial Hospital Foundation, Inc., to release from the lease the hospital and rural health clinics, as it is apparent from the status of the ongoing negotiations and sudden unilateral closing of the obstetric department by Christus, I believe on August the 31st of this year is when it was closed. Is that correct, Kevin?
That's the close at midnight.
Yeah. That it is in the best interest of the patrons of the Jasper Hospital District and also in the foundation, and in particular to the women and children of this district, that Christus, they are no longer serving or best serving the continued release agreement. So I move that I make a motion that the board instruct Christus that we request that they immediately decline and release the option to renew the lease agreement at this time.
I move to table.
Second.
You know, we're in no position.
Second. You got a motion
Well,
to
now,
table.
we got a motion to table first. We have a motion to table. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, raise your hand.
I'm abstaining.
I'm in favor.
We got too much going on one time. Let's go. All those in favor of tabling the motion, raise your hand. All those in favor of opposed tabling, raise your hand.
Oh, you mean
You're against the motion to table. That's all you're against the motion to table. Is that everybody else?
It's still,
I'm gonna abstain.
you got two of
I
them.
abstain.
You got two of them.
Still have motions that I've made concerning,
We have a motion to approve the motion made by Mr. Radcliffe.
We have not had a second.
Second. You have a second by Ace Matthews. Discussion.
This board, gentlemen and lady, is not in a position to negotiate anything with anybody. Most people who would go into an area of negotiation would do so with some facts in hand. And we would refer to those facts in hand as little volume of work that we would call a strategic health plan, a community health plan. I tried to get us to do that right after our election. As you may recall, when I came in, in order to do my job on the board, I needed to see the strategic plan. And my response was, there is not one. I said, well, let me see your operational plan. The response was, we don't have one. And I said, well, let me see your financial plan. And guess what? Same thing, you can figure it out. I set up a professional team to come in. We dealt with that in the committee for a strategic plan team to do that and to do it properly according to guidelines. And I remind you, I sit on the task force in Austin of the Rural Health and Economic Development Committee. I have been in and out of this a number of times. The 2018 plan for rural health has been published, and I wrote a small part of it. This board, and presumably, or mostly, Mr. Ratliff, decided, well, we could save some money, and he found somebody that would do it for $20,000. Turns out it was $40,000. They did produce a document back in February, and as yet, Mr. Ratliff has chosen not to share that with us. I got a copy. I showed it with people that are familiar with strategic plans, a couple in this room. Nobody could see what it actually was. It was not, and by any means, a strategic plan. We just wasted $40,000. I ask you to consider what a multi-million-dollar corporation responsible for providing healthcare services to our area should do in regard to this negotiation. Number one, Christus may not be perfect, but right now it's the best horse we got. It's the only horse we got. And in order to negotiate with them or anyone else, we need that strategic plan that tells us what it's really worth to operate a hospital in this area. And then we can talk to them. My feeling is that Christus, despite the mistreatment of this board for the Christus system, would still give us a fair hearing. And I remind you that last year, this board refused to sign a grant thing that it was eligible for that cost Christus $1 million. Another $1 million would have come back to us. And I was told by this board that, well, we were afraid that the upfront money we wouldn't get back. Well, from my position on the state committee, I found that every rural hospital in this state that was eligible for the upper payment limit program took it. Guess how many of them lost the upfront money? Zip. Gentlemen, you're not doing your job. You're all good people. I know you want to do the right thing, but you have a list that goes on and on of mismanagement, bad decisions. It's time to take things to heart. We have people in this board, several right now, who are ready to step up and assume an appointed position if we could get some resignations. It's just a
I call
recognition
the
that we
question.
should
There's
deserve
a
some.
motion and a second. I call for the vote now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, one other point.
Well,
we've not had this to the pre-position.
all in favor, say aye.
Recognized him, so you sit down there, you call for a vote.
Now call for a vote, move on. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, sir.
So, did you?
Here.
Did you abstain?
Did you abstain?
Did you abstain?
Guess who's name?
On the president report, there was a forum held today by the way the strategic planning committee that's hosted by Jasper. It was on mental health issues and housing or mental health patients, and it was on the table, it was well attended. We had representatives from all surrounding counties, be it either county judges or their appointees. There was a lot of dialogue on what we could do at the surrounding area, what we could do to come together with a mental health facility here in Jasper. I can share with you that the proposals, hopefully the Mary Dixon will probably be that facility. At this time, I'm not at liberty for saying who it were, but I just have very encouraging news that I think something like that was going to come here. We just working out the details, how we can get it here, but we may have a mental health facility here in Jasper.
Thank you.
And I really don't like going back and forth on things. Dr. McMurray, you are like very familiar with this board. I just feel like you have came on and never tried to be part of the board, just contradict the board. But you always care about the IGT or the upper levels. Maybe that Krista did. I listen to you, listen to me.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I served on the Christmas board of Southeast Texas and the Jasper Hospital District Board at that time. That upper level number that you keep saying $1 million is not how you put it. And there was the reason why it wasn't done here was because, we found out they could have let us know where the money want to go to. They do it everywhere else. We may not get all the money, but some of that money should have came back to our district. And they couldn't tell us that. And so we moved on. But we have done at least 2 upper level limits with Christmas in the past. So, you may have the knowledge of what goes on because you're a board member, but when you come back and you relay it to the public in a negative way, that's not helping our situation or our community. So I just want to let you know that I listen to you. I appreciate you listening to me. And that's what my president for. You're not acknowledged.
Well, I understand. What I'm trying to do.
As we're going to move on, at this time we have a turn.
On a clip.
The hospital administrator, I talked to Mr. Moore, he was not able to attend. If I'm not mistaken, he's at a conference.
He's at a leadership meeting in Louisiana.
With that being said, we're gonna move on to the attorney report.
There are a lot of political posturing that goes on around here. You notice that? I try to stay out of the political side of it, because I have to work with all of them. But when the facts go wrong, I'm going to speak up, except for what it's worth. We have had on 2 different occasions with regard to UPLs, the district has put that money in the state system. Let's talk about what that means and how it works. We put in a substantial amount of money, several $100,000. What that does is it goes to the state, and then the state in turn sends it back to the operations of the hospital for the use of those funds. And there's usually a multiplier, 1.5, sometimes more. But so
1 to 4.
As I say, it changes, but there's a multiplier. So, as an example, if you give $200,000, if it's multiplied by 2, then it'd be $400,000 that comes back. Okay. Now, that goes to Christus. That does not come to the district. Important thing. So when you hear someone say, "Well, you should have given $500,000 away through the system so they could go to Christus," there was no way that money was going to be sent back to us in any form. It was just $500,000 of your money that went into the hospital system by Christus, but it didn't come to us. Christus has a corporate overhead charge annually of $2.5 million. Their Dallas office charges the Jasper facility for their general corporate overhead. $2.5 million. Christus has made money each year according to their records, except in this last year they said they lost $1.9 million. And you'd be amazed at the accounting mechanisms that go on. But that takes into account that they made $2.5 million that was sent to Dallas. Everybody understanding that? Nobody's really losing any money here at their level. Would you want us to stay in our positions, the board members stay in their positions, if they were continually giving away $500,000 at a clip with no way to return it back? Not good business. Never was. It is practical in some instances for that to actually work, but not in the situation that we find ourselves here in Jasper. Okay? And you've got to keep that in mind. At some point, we run out of $500,000 increments to give away. We proposed to Christus a method where they could lease another facility so that they could return some of those funds to us in rent for that other facility. They turned us down. They didn't want the money coming back to us. They wanted the cash balances that we're able to secure to be diminished. And there is an economic impact when we do that, because we do not have the ability to negotiate with them from strength. We negotiate with them from weakness in that point. Point in question. In 1995, Ron McMurray came on our board, and it was a continual disruption with some others, to the point that in 1997, you as voters voted him out. Threw him off the board, said, no, this isn't working, Ron. You go home. We had minimal funds at the hospital district at that point. In 2010, we had accumulated close to $14 million from our rents and our savings from our CD interest. And we spent over $7 million of that on a state-of-the-art emergency department at the hospital. There was a time when you went into the emergency department and they pulled the curtain and you had a woman over here having all kinds of health problems. You had a man complaining here. You had a family that just died, and you heard all that had someone just die, and you heard all of that going on. You don't do that anymore because we have a state-of-the-art department that you can go to in an emergency situation. Just as a show of hands, how many people have used our emergency department out there? Did you find that to be an acceptable use of your money? Anybody oppose that expenditure?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it was because of you that we did it. I moved here with my family when I was in high school in 1969, or 1968. I went to college after I graduated from high school here, came back, and I have worked since 1976. Found a Jasper woman who I love, married. We've had 2 kids. I've got one of my daughters and her husband and 2 grandchildren that live here in the community. For anybody to suggest that we are not trying to do what is best for this hospital, because you go around to everyone here, they have family members as well as themselves that they rely upon a hospital that truly cares for you and will be there when called upon in your need. That happened to me in 2010. I was grateful that it was there. Ron McMurray has not been on the doctor's staff at Jasper Memorial for close to 20 years. Is that reaching you? He cares so much about it that he has not even been on the staff, the medical staff at the hospital, for almost 20 years. But yet he comes in and tells you he is the authority on the world matters. We have been fighting the trenches with Christus for those years. And we have accumulated, these folks have worked their tails off. There are efforts here far beyond you would ever know, in which they have done what was right, what was important, and what was in the best interest of the hospital district patrons, you folks here in this room. And I've been damn proud to be part of it. And I'll say that anywhere, anytime, to anybody. And I think most of you would too, if you felt that way. So, when you hear these stories about the hospital not getting $1 million, that's pure baloney. And outside of this room, I can tell you in a different way, in a more pejorative manner, what that really means. We are not in a position to give Christus money. They paid us essentially rent of $702,000 a year. They wanted us to give away $500,000 of that back so that they would get it, and that money was not going to come back to us again. So all of this about the UPL, which that program no longer is even in effect. There's going to be some other things that are in place, but that was so unique and such problematic that they changed the methodology. If you got further questions about the UPL program, if you have those issues, you stop by and talk to me. I'll be glad to, because the money went through the bank by my implementation of that authority that the board gave me. We did it twice. They gave us promises of what they were going to do. We never got the promises. And we said $500,000 is too much for us to give away when we know this is going to be coming up. All right? Second thing, Ron McMurray in March of this year filed a lawsuit against this board. These are the sorriest, no good people that ever walked there. They don't know what they're doing. They're illegal. They don't do this. They don't do that. Has he told you the resolution of that lawsuit? He hasn't, because he hadn't put it on his website. The judge threw his case out on July the 12th, saying the case was dismissed. And yet, he has the gall to get up here and talk about how great he is. Did you know that our president, when Ron McMurray was put on our board, the president appointed him chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee? Several people said, Kenneth, do you know what you're doing? I want to do it. So we appointed him. He has a meeting or two, which I attended. He threw a temper tantrum and quit. He resigned. He said, I'm not going to get it my way. I'm going to quit. Y'all know what you're doing. Mike Ratcliffe stepped up to the plate. Mike Ratcliffe has done a yeoman's job as the chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee. We have met numerous times. We have had numerous negotiations, both in person, at number of staff levels, as well as phone correspondence and through various other attorneys. There has been discussions. The item that took place tonight, actually does not dispose of who's going to lease. It's just putting us back on equal footing, if it happens. They still can come up on October 31st, 2019, say, we want to renew the lease. But you know their negotiating position so far is they don't want to lease for 5 years. They don't want to lease for 10 years. They want to lease for 3 years. 3 years. Is that stable for you? If you knew that you were going to have to negotiate every 3 years to keep somebody operating hospitals, do you think in your wise business judgment that would be a good thing to do? It isn't. You need stability. You need 10-year agreements. You need 20-year agreements. You need somebody that says, I want to come to Jasper, and I want to be here through the good times and the bad times, because I have a mission to fulfill to the patrons of the city of Jasper. We had a wonderful relationship with Christmas through about 2017. Well, why, Robert, do you say 2017? Because in 2018, they withheld their rent until they could, in my words, extort items out of this board to agree on that we would return it to them at $300,000 increments every 6 months. Am I saying any of this wrong?
That's right.
And that's when we finally got the rent payment, close to a year late. We didn't talk about them in that press with that. We didn't talk about how this isn't right, this isn't ethical, this isn't appropriate for a taxpayer. We didn't talk about that. That's what happened. Ron Murray knows that. I can tell you that. This is a negotiating struggle with Christmas. We are trying to level the field as best we can. We do not know whether they will be here or not. We have very little control over whether they will be here or not. In 1995, this board voted 5-4 to terminate property taxes and not assess property taxes. Is everybody in this room, if you raise your hand, you know that you're not paying any hospital property taxes? That's right. You know who voted to keep the taxes going?
Oh, I'm not aware of that vote.
Oh, you were there. You voted for it. You wanted it to go. And I could go.
I did. I'm sorry. You know who wrote that?
We do not want to reinstate taxes. He has contacted the Jasper County Appraisal District and asked them how much money would the value of the Jasper properties raised at 75 cents and be $7.5 million. He has gone out and done that. Appraisal District Chief called me, told me, do you want these numbers too? I said, I guess so. We're going to have a fight over taxes. But we don't think we got to go taxes. Do you want us to go taxes?
No,
I don't think anybody does. We're trying to work within the framework that we know the patrons of Jasper want. And that's no low or no taxes. That's where we're at. And we're trying to negotiate with someone that will work within that framework. We wouldn't pay $1.8 million. We wouldn't pay another $600,000 Christmas for them to continue the obstetrics department. So they're closing.